All right, people. Good late afternoon, spilling into the early evening here, and we've got a little bit more pro football focused stuff to take a look at today. And now we're doing the defense. We're going to take a look at the defensive side of the ball, which in some areas was a little bit better, I would say, than the offense, but overall still not very good and still left a lot to be desired, although not really surprising given the fact that you're not playing any of your starters and you're giving your third stringers and even fourth stringers a decent amount of burn. So it's not really anything to be alarmed about, but I do want to pick through the carcass of this one a little bit more. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and as always, I don't look at PFF because I think they always get it right, or I think they always get it wrong. I just look at it because they are doing some hard work out there, and I think it's worth trying to understand on some level. Okay, so looking at the overall defensive grades, immediately you're kind of like, okay, I get that, right? Because Tyrice Knight came in with the highest grade of any defender, and he was the one defender that jumped off the screen over and over and over again last night. He had 10 tackles, he had 6 stops, he had 2 pass breakups, and by the way, you can see his coverage grade was excellent, so that is something I think that is pretty exciting. And it matches up with what we thought we saw on the football field when we all watched that game, I think. I think when we all watched that game, we all had the thought that Tyrice Knight looks like our best player. And that's exciting because that's a guy who could actually get on the field for us a non-trivial amount this year. So that's a good start. Chaz Surratt coming in at second place, though, with another really strong grade and a really high cover grade. And that surprises me a little bit. Although it is interesting to note that it was almost entirely because of his coverage and his tackling. Run defense was below replacement level, so was the pass rush grade. But regardless, Chaz Surratt was not a player that I thought stood out all that much last night, and I felt like all of our linebackers, except for Knight, did not look very good, although they were not helped by the defensive line in front of them really getting pushed around a lot, so maybe I can understand they're trying to take things in isolation a little bit, and they are highlighting one specific part of his game more than anything else. But for whatever it's worth, Chaz Surratt came out of this game with a good grade. Rodney Thomas, third place. Okay, I can get behind that a little bit. That's agreeable. Almost an 80. Marvin Jones Jr., 78.4. Not really much of an impact as a pass rusher, but overall they thought he played a pretty solid game. They liked his run defense, which, hey, I can dig that. That's important in this defense. And then fifth place, you had Noah Igbenogany, who did stand out to me last night as well. I thought Igbenogany really didn't give up anything in coverage in the snaps that he played. I think that he played inside and outside. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, I think, by the way. But he did play inside and outside, which is not in my mind, not a bad thing for a guy of his size to be able to play on the outside a little bit. And he was graded well. So that I like, because that's a guy who might actually play a little for us this year. Aiden Hubbard got a pretty good grade as well. He was in 6th place here. They gave him 1 pressure. Jared Ivey next up. I did think Jared Ivey played a good game last night, even though he didn't really get much pressure on the quarterback. He did stand out to me, and PFF agrees. Maxon Hook next. Then you got Riley Mills. And with Riley Mills, it kind of looks like it is what we thought we saw. He can get to the quarterback. He's got a good pass rush ability, but the run defense, he'll get pushed around a little bit because he is a little bit undersized, and that's just the kind of player he is. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today, and remember to always gamble responsibly. Connor O'Toole, not bad either. Actually, pretty decent grade, better than I would have expected. Bud Clark, reasonable. Nothing stand out here, nothing extraordinary, but did his job. And one thing to remember with a player like Bud Clark, sometimes when you don't notice him, that means he's doing his job. So I don't think I saw some people last night saying, "Oh, I didn't notice Bud Clark." That's not necessarily a bad thing for a player like that. Michael Dansby, not bad. I think he gave up the 2-yard touchdown pass, but other than that, I thought he played pretty well. Pat O'Connell, I liked what he did yesterday overall, more or less. Although again, he was part of the reason why we were having some issues against the run throughout that game, but less so to me than some of the other linebackers on the team. So okay, I can dig that. J.R. Singleton, he was actually one of our better pass rushers of the day, and given that he's a nose tackle, that kind of stands out. So we had that. Mike Morris, pretty okay. He actually stood out to me a little bit more than this, but whatever. Again, not by a huge amount. AJ Finley, who actually made one of the better plays of the day, not too great here because of his tackling grade. We'll talk about that in a second here. Jalen Gaines, they didn't think much of him, and he was one of the guys that actually made a couple of splash plays, I thought. So you can see that the consistency maybe isn't there. Their run defense grade on him was below replacement level. D'Anthony Bell, a little bit forgettable, although only 11 snaps. Nehemiah Pritchett, also relatively forgettable. Andre Fuller, that's kind of the cutoff here. This is the cutoff to guys that they thought were just plain bad. And you've got Andre Fuller, you got Bubba Thomas, Aaron Smith, who I didn't even know we had him on the team still. Brandon Peely, and that one's a little bit disconcerting. We had a lot of issues with our nose tackles last night, and he was part of it. And Peely's a guy who's played in NFL regular season games before, so need a little bit more from him. Jean Charles, terrible grade to nobody's surprise. Jordan Washington, same thing. Suamalo was getting manhandled late in that game. Same with Devin Eastern. You can see that we did have an interior defensive line problem, and that created a lot of our issues last night. It felt like we were just getting bullied by the Dallas front. And you see that with Eastern, Suamalo, Peely, and Bubba Thomas all grading so low. You add it up in your head and you're like, yeah, that's how you get the result that you get. And the defense didn't play terrible last night, but you can see the issues. Now, real quick here, one thing I want to highlight. We had a lot of stops in the game. And for those of you who don't know what a stop is a good tackle, basically. A tackle for a minimal gain given the down and distance. So Tyrice Knight had 6 stops. Nobody else had more than 1. So that tells you how good he was for the Seahawks. He wasn't just tackling, he was making good tackles. Now, missed tackle-wise, we had a bunch of players with 1. We had 6 total missed tackles, so that's not bad. I think 6 missed tackles is fine in a 60-minute game. So that part of the defense was pretty good. Knight did miss 1, and when you're getting as many tackles as he is, you're going to miss 1 here and there, so whatever. But AJ Finley, and this is the main thing that dragged him down, he missed a tackle. D'Anthony Bell, Aaron Smith, John Charles, Suamalo. So nothing too egregious here, but some of these guys don't play enough to afford to be able to afford to miss a tackle, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's the overall defensive stuff. Run defense, they had 4 run stops to Tyrice Knight, and everyone else had 1 or none. So kind of scattered other than Tyrice Knight here. There's not really a lot to say. But actual overall tackles against the run, Jared Ivey had 3. Only one of them was a stop, but still impactful against the run. Jalen Gaines as well. This is one of the reasons why people called him out positively, even though he didn't make a huge impact necessarily. So that's the run defense stuff. Nothing too standout or remarkable here. The grading for run defense stuff always is a little bit, I don't know. I don't totally trust the grades that PFF gives out with run defense individually. I think you are often better off looking at the hard numbers because those are more objective. Like average depth of tackle for Knight against the run on 5 tackles is 2 yards. Like, that's really good. So I don't see how he's not even a top 8 run defender on the team. That doesn't jive to me. That doesn't really line up with reality to me. Now, pass rush, this was one of the areas where the Seahawks really had a hard time last night. They had no sacks. According to this, they had 2 quarterback hits, one by Mike Morris, one by J.R. Singleton. and then they had 7 hurries other than that. So not a lot of pressure on Sam Howell or Joe Milton. And like I said, that is one area where I would have liked to have seen a little bit more because, number one, you did have a guy like Riley Mills playing. Riley Mills is a guy we're going to count on some level to play impactful snaps for us this year. And there are other guys on this team that could earn snaps as an edge rusher, like a fifth guy, like Jalen Gaines, Aiden Hubbard, even Marvin Jones Jr., and Connor O'Toole, and Jared Ivey to me is a big one. And there just wasn't much of an impact there. Now, I will say that some of the grades are okay, but most of them are very blah. Most of the pass rush grades are blah. The only guy with multiple pressures yesterday was J.R. Singleton, who's a nose tackle, by the way. And the only other guy who actually got kind of close to the quarterback was Mike Morris. Now, there were a couple of pressures wiped out by penalty. Like, we did get a couple of pressures that got canceled out because Dallas committed like a holding call. So that doesn't end up counting, but it's still a good play. But still, if you watch that game last night, I think you will come away thinking this pass rush was not very good. So this is one area where I'd like to see a little bit better. I think there's a good chance that one of the fifth edges, one of the fringe edge guys can make the team. I'd like to get an idea of who that might be based on their play over the next couple of weeks. Okay, coverage stuff. Coverage stuff. Some really good stuff here. Also some really troublesome stuff. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Overall, I don't think there's a lot to be worried about. This is one area where people were getting frustrated last night. I don't really mind what I see here that much. So you've got 2 linebackers that graded very high in coverage, Surratt and Knight. And Knight, we know why. He had the 2 pass breakups, 5 targets, 16 yards allowed. That's really good for a linebacker. Totally cool with that. So Surratt, 2 targets, 11 yards. Again, fine, no issue. So we're on board with that. And look at some of the other numbers here. And again, don't look at the grades for a second. Look at just the raw numbers. Igbinoghene didn't allow any catches. Rodney Thomas didn't get targeted at all. Bud Clark, no completions allowed. 1 target, no completions on 24 coverage snaps. AJ Finley, I don't know if he's going to make the team. He's got a chance. 2 targets, 12 yards. I can live with that. You've got Jalen Gaines. I mean, he's a linebacker. I know he's mostly doing pass rush stuff. 1 target, no completions. Michael Dansby allowed the touchdown, but other than that, he was good. One target, 2 yards. Can't really hate on a guy too much for that. Nehemiah Pritchett gave up a 9-yarder, but that was it. He only got targeted once in the game, so I don't think he played terribly. Some people were dogging on him last night, I think, but I look at this and I say, okay, I can live with that. And you've got D'Anthony Bell. I mean, he was only a couple of coverage snaps, but he didn't get targeted. So there's a lot of positive stuff here. Like Noah Igbinoghene is a guy that might matter for us this year. I thought he played good. Pritchett may matter for us this year. The coverage numbers were relatively clean. The guys who were a problem in coverage last night were Andre Fuller, Pat O'Connell, Jordan Washington, and Shamar Jean-Charles. Now, Andre Fuller will probably make the team, or at least he has a chance of making the team. And yeah, he was bad last night, but at the same time, he's a rookie. He's a 7th-round rookie. What do you expect? It's not anything to be surprised by or trip on too much, and it's not that bad. O'Connell is kind of a slower player anyway. Like, you wouldn't expect him to be very good in coverage, and 2 targets, 19 yards is not enough to get worked up about. Jordan Washington will never make this team, and 2 targets, 15 yards isn't even that bad. He did have, of course, the penalty, which was not great, but again, we're not going to get... I don't think this is anything to get worked up about. The really bad player in coverage last night was John Charles, who gave up almost 80 yards on 5 targets and had a penalty. But Jean Charles is not going to make this team. He was never going to make this team. So him getting beat like a drum out there is not surprising, and it's not especially concerning. He also gave up the touchdown, by the way. So yeah, it's a terrible game, but this isn't even a guy who we're going to necessarily have on speed dial for if people get hurt. John Charles is truly a 90-manner on this team. He is one of the first guys who's going to go, almost certainly. So overall, it's not really anything that I'm alarmed by here. Special teams, by the way, Brock Lampy was our highest graded special teamer, which is great for him. If he wants to make this team, that's a great way to do it. TJ Harden also did pretty well. Other than that, nothing too remarkable. Rochelle got a really good grade for the kick return, and Nick Collerup and Maxon Hook. I think, yeah, Collerup missed a tackle on special teams, and we did have a few other guys down here. Manuel Henderson, pick it up. This is where you need to make your hay. And that's really about it. So I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. That is Pro Football Focus, the defense. And more videos coming later. Go Hawks.